Time for some Reform Alliance. Hi, I'm Rafael Casal
Daveed Diggs.
We are the creators of Blindspotting. We first introduced the world to Blindspotting in 2018 through our film, and now we're here rolling out season 2 of the spinoff series on STARZ.
Both the film and the show touch on some of the absurdities of the parole system in the U.S. And so joining us now to talk about it more in depth is Britton Smith of Reform Alliance. What's going on, man?
You got it. Pleasure. Thank you guys for having me and having Reform on on this platform to speak about an issue you guys tackle in such a unique way. And we definitely appreciate your work and how you guys are making such an impact.
Oh man, thank you so much. I think we just try to scratch the surface of how we're doing real work. So can you tell us a bit more about what Reform does and how y'all do it, just for people who are completely unfamiliar with the organization?
Absolutely. So Reform Alliance is an organization focused primarily on probation and parole reform. And we were birthed out of the situation with the rapper Meek Mill when he popped a wheelie and was sentenced. And, unfortunately for him, he was able to call on some of his friends, but everybody doesn't have a billionaire Rolodex. So
No, they do
not. Working on it, but for everyone else, this was something that an issue, and all of our board was able to see that, if this could happen to someone with celebrity, with stature, with status, these technical violations, these issues that could really alter someone's life, imagine what it's like for everyday individuals, for the common man. So we're the organization that was started. And we focus on the legislative aspect of it, but even more so the culture, changing the culture around and the conversation around probation and parole. And to date, we've been able to pass 16 bills in 10 different states on a pathway to impact over 650,000 individuals nationwide. So we're still going. Still aiming to make those types of changes legislatively, but also change the culture and conversation around probation and parole.
That's incredible, man. And it's obviously this is an issue that touches so many people personally, and that's why it's a part of the show. But for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with it or don't fully understand the ways that this does directly connect to their life, can you share some of the examples of things that you've seen working at Reform that highlight what an insane system this is?
Absolutely. So again, when we talk about community supervision, probation and parole, when we talk about things like that, you have a system here in the United States where we have 4.5 million people who live their lives every day with the threat or possibility of being reincarcerated without committing a new crime. And these are technical violations, simple things as even things that you see in Earl's case where there's trying to get a job but yet you have stipulations upon your probation, and you have individuals who, for instance, a sad scenario. We had an individual we came across an individual who had a technical violation where obviously it says you cannot come in contact with law enforcement. Had a fender bender, actually a hit and run. The other person ran off. This guy wanted to get some information for his insurance. So he had to file a claim. The police showed up. Well, his probation officer said because the probation officer was not notified before the police showed up, he had contact with law enforcement and was then violated.
Oh, that's so.
So yeah, there are tons of horror stories.
And that's not uncommon. That's like a regular one.
That's not uncommon.
Case. That's a normal case.
That's a Tuesday. And in so many jurisdictions, people crossing county lines, restricted to going, and of course, we've seen a situation in Michigan where there was a guy who had he and his child's mother had a child. Well, while he was incarcerated, she moved to a different area because she was relocated because of her job. So the kid was in the new school district. well, now the dad can't come out and come to PTA meetings and the class play and school sport functions because it's in a different county. And so it's little things like that that are not just impacting people's ability to just re-enter society and find economic mobility, but just even simple things as rebuilding and repairing family structures. And so we're seeing that this not only just hinders people from coming back to society and being contributors, but it's really destabilizing our communities.
And so I guess the question really is like, it doesn't seem like it's not keeping us safer. It's destabilizing communities, perpetuating recidivism. Like, why does it even exist? What's the actual function of doing this to people after they've already served their term?
So it's designed to create a pathway that we actually want people to have a pathway to re-enter successfully. Mm-hmm. However,
it has do that at all.
There's in theory, and then there's in practice,
right.
And then there's this. But what we are aiming to see is making the laws and interpreting the laws to make them make sense. There's, for years, all of us grew up in systems and areas. Obviously, we know the whole, war on drugs, and every local politician campaigns on being tough on crime. But it's time we really be smart on crime. It's actually making things make sense, because again, if you're putting people in better situations with better circumstances, we can then start to expect better outcomes. Because if you still have me on extended probation, where we see people on probation who, most of their adult lives, like we saw with Meek Mill, or have people who are on probation 10, 20, 15 years, you're not getting the return on investment. And we're spending billions of dollars, nearly $3 billion in this system and in this structure. There's a state commissioner of community supervision who's been very vocal about the fact that after 2 years, you're not really getting a return on investment. So either you've done the work to help them be successful and set them up to succeed, or you haven't gotten through to them and they're in a position where they need other methods. But at no point is the method, you just need more time on this structure. So it's weird. It's like, you get on a road and either you're on the right road, or the philosophy is keep you on the wrong road and just keep driving. Just keep driving it until we think you're done. So we want to make sure that we're getting the culture changed around probation, that the stigma of people who are returning to society is really one that denotes that these are people who, unfortunately, being judged by a youthful indiscretion or something that happened on their worst day. That stigma is really unfair to label, but not just label, to characterize. And so it's something that we really at Reform Alliance, we really take pride in making sure that we can help people and work with great community partners, great organizations, great entities to really help change the narrative, county by county, community by community, city by city, and hopefully we can make such a great impact.
I just gotta say, man, that you just set a whole bar. I want to, and nobody wants to be judged by the worst day of their
worst day.
No,
nobody wants to be held to for years and years and years. Like, whew, that hit.
Absolutely, man. The individuals that we work with, oftentimes, I know my situation, and I thank God for all the opportunities that I had. But I know that for a lot of people that we deal with, the only difference between me and them is I didn't get caught. I did a lot of silly things as a kid, but there are some folks who made one mistake one day at one time, and it cost them their entire future, and all the potential that we're missing out on people that could really make such an impact, it really starts to manifest. And unfortunately, it's like that untapped potential has to go somewhere. And so what we're really trying to do is make sure people realize that there's so much hope. There's so much more out there.
What's the best way for people to stay informed, support the work you guys are doing, tap in, give batteries in your back? What's the way?
So we need to mobilize folks all across the country so they can get more information at reformalliance.com, or simply they can just text the word reform, REFORM, to 81411. And they can sign up, become members. It'll keep you abreast of all the legislation that we're into, that we're looking to move across the country, all the activities, events, any and everything that we're doing, and even second chance hiring events. So just more people engaged is going to make this thing a lot stronger.
Awesome.
Man, fantastic, Britton. Thank you for the work you guys are doing. I have to say, like, it's great talking to you as like someone who's had friends and family members affected by this process. Like, it's pretty also easy to become really cynical about it. And the work that you're doing to actually change the system so that it makes sense is so, I think, necessary. And just hearing you approach it with like the sort of realistic but not cynical attitude about it is like really awesome for me personally. So it's been great sitting down with you for a while, man.
No, absolutely. And again, I also have to tip my hat to you guys, because the way you all approach the conversation, like I said, another part of that, in addition to the legislation, is changing the culture around it. And so, there have been plenty of shows and plenty of instances on screen where we've seen parole officers, probation officers, and it's always been very doom and gloom. But to humanize this aspect in a more lighthearted aspect, to show these are people who are going through real life experiences, but they have real life things that happen. Sometimes it is comical. Sometimes there's levity in there. So I definitely appreciate that aspect that you all are bringing to the conversation. And a lot of the organizations, I have to shout out a lot of the organizations that we work with. We know we're one of the younger organizations, but we have a national face. But there's so many groups on the ground in each of the places that we work with who've been doing this work for years, but never get that credit and never get that shine. And it's our pleasure to work with them and enter in that space and who are helping the Earls of the world and who are helping the people really live in this experience.
Yeah, that's it. It's the 1-2 punch of culture and legislation. So we out here, Blindspotting 2 is coming out. If you're watching the show out there and you are hurting in the heart for Earl or for this family, and it stirs you up and it makes you want to get out there and do something, please text reform to 81411. Check out the website, reformalliance.com. Make sure that you're seeing what they're doing on legislative changes, and see if you can get involved and support that in your local government, local city. Man, we just really appreciate you being here. Appreciate being in conversation with you. Yeah, we're excited to be a small part of the megaphone. That's it.
Yeah,
absolutely. No. Thank you guys for having us, and keep doing the great work that you all are.
Right on, man.
Thank you, bro.
Cool, bro.
All right.
Appreciate it, man. This is gonna be great. We'll get some little pieces out of it. We'll promote the hell out of this shit. Try to drive more awareness to your org, man.
No, man, I'm with it.
Have so much respect for what you're doing, man. It's just so much respect for it. It's so needed, and man, just great hearing you talk, man.
Yeah,
like what Daveed said, man. One of my partners just got out after doing, I think he did 13 years. And I was just like, man, like, just that moment of getting out and being like, man, you still got a bit of a road ahead of him. You got to stay out of trouble, and got out. He's about to enter all that same shit. And you're like, man,
go right back into the same neighborhood, same, and so if our cities, counties, if the governments are not investing and making sure that we can actually change some of the circumstances, then you're setting people up to fail, which we know that there's some things that were designed to do that. So we're just trying to, un-jenga the system one block at a time.
All right, bro. We really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I know you guys got a round robin of things, so
Yeah.
End early, get you guys a break in there somehow.
Right on, bro. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.